See that whole pitman arm moving? That's not supposed to do that. Hey guys, Rye Guy here. As you can see, the old green Grizz is up on the jacks, and judging by that first video clip that you just seen on my channel here, on this video, we're going to be doing some work. That bearing that you've seen have the play right where the bottom of the pitman arm is connected to the steering shaft. So I've replaced this bearing once before, and it's a job. It's not easy. The weather's miserable out today, but the one thing that's not is really cold. So it's kind of warm because we got a storm front moving through. They're getting a lot of rain. We had a lot of snow here this morning, a lot of freezing rain and ice and just garbage. So anyway, we're going to get started here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the two front tires. You're going to see here, that's not tie rod in play. What that is yeah, like I said, that's that bearing moving in and out. Because every time you bring them in, it pops it out. You bring them back out, it pops it back down. So I can't have that. So the first thing I'm going to do is take off the tires. I'm going to take off the front rack, and yeah, we'll start from there. I don't think I'm going to have to take off the bumper, but we'll see. Basically, what's going to have to come off is this entire front plastic piece. So, like I said, it's a job. So let's start with that. Get the tires off, get the top rack off, and we'll see you guys in a couple minutes. Okay, so here's where the real fun begins. So now that we got the front rack off, or tires off, of course, you're going to see a massive wire harness. That's pretty much the whole brains of the operation right here, other than the ECU in the back. So yeah, there's a lot that needs to be taken care of here. We're going to need to remove, if you notice here, these are drywall screws, but that's all I had at the time. I actually bought some pop rivets to replace those because I lost the original ones there. So anyway, your tank cover is tied onto the front fender piece here too. So is your tank cover going to have to come off? Probably so. I ended up taking a lot of parts and pieces off my bike the last time. Maybe you have other opinions on how to do your way, but you know what? I found it the easiest way to do it because there was nothing in my way. So that's the way I'm going to do it here again. So we got a lot of wiring harnesses here. Like I said, we got to start unplugging here. I got to get this this display, heads-up display, or whatever you want to call it here, your gauge pod, disassembled just with the wiring harness here. Pull that off. There's just a single nut here. Take the tank cover off, and in order to do that, again, there should be two pop rivets here, not drywall screws, two bolts in the back. You're going to have to pop this piece off right here in your handlebars. Comes right off. Just pull it off, and take your fuel cap off. I have a snorkel, as you can see up here, so that needs to come off. Obviously I got to take the airbox cover off. So again, there's a lot of parts and pieces that just need to be stripped down on this thing. It is time consuming. It is a job to do this type of thing, but it needs to be done when it needs to be done. So unless you want to break something else while you're out in the field, that sucks. One last thing, the front fenders are also tied into your footwells as well. If you notice down here, we have there's a bunch of 8mm bolts in the back side of that fender, and then I think they're number 3 Phillips on the fender, on the fender well. So we got to get that taken care of. So I'm going to start on that, start unplugging. You'll see, you know, I can bring you in close if you want, but you'll see as you start getting into this stuff here. This is just kind of general guidelines of how you do this stuff, because I don't want to take responsibility if something goes wrong during your repair, because then I'm going to get some angry messages like I already have for some reason. That's the downside of YouTube. It's just some bad people out there, man. Anyway, I'm going to get started at this and see you guys after I get the cover off and the front fenders off. So, oh yeah, one other thing too. You do have underneath here, just so you know, you do have, I don't know if I can see it there. On the back side you have a key switch and you have your auxiliary 12 volt plug-in that needs to come off as well. So, just a reminder of those. Okay, if I did everything right here, we're on the last bolt. Once you get all these wiring harnesses separated here, and out of the way, make sure that nothing's going to snag up anywhere. There's a vent hose tube here. There should be 2 vent hose tubes here, one for the carburetor and one for the front differential. Now, I already modified my breather tube for the carburetor up on the very top of the tank here. Okay, that's very up the top here. That's why you see those 2. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but anyway, they're hanging off there at the top of the tank. Just keep them up out of the crap. Other than that, there's 2 bolts here, there's a bolt here, and they're all 10mm bolts. I've replaced so many nuts and bolts and washers and everything on this bike over the years that I've had it that I couldn't tell you from factory what they actually are, so just take everything I say with a grain of salt here. Okay, so I'm on the last bolt. Let's see if it works. Dust. Okay, that's over there. And by the way, if you're leaving your headlight assembly in, and I suggest you do, you don't have to actually take the bumper off. I couldn't remember the last time I did it. But there are 1, 2, 3, 4 push pins in there, push rivets. I broke 2 of them just because they're old and fragile. Anyway, I'll have to get more of those. So, okay, we're going to lift up here and take everything nice and slow, and hopefully we got everything separated. That's a wire that I put in there. So we're just going to try to tuck everything in so that when I take this off, I'm not wrestling it too much. Okay. Sneak that over. Okay. Getting some resistance somewhere. Tuck these wires. Where am I hung up on? Nowhere. It's just awkward. Listen to that rain. Holy God. Okay, the wiring harness is down through, so technically I should be able to lift that straight off now. Aha! There's your front piece. And you'll see what I did is I fished the wires through. You won't have any of that crap hanging off of there. You'll just have that plug. But that's for my headlight, my LED switches, and that's the power of them there. And that's for your key switch there. So that's all I did was just fish everything through so I can take everything off in one piece, one chunk. I'm going to set this aside somewhere. Maybe I can hang it up somewhere so it's a little way. So you'll see very down there is where we got to get to. So yeah, there's still a bunch of crap we should probably take off just to make things easier. But one of the things we do have to take off, and it's going to be heck for a lot of people, is the handlebar assembly itself. That actually needs to come off because that whole shaft needs to be pulled out of there. So I'm going to suggest before you even unbutton anything up top here, we got to get the tie rod ends off, and when we do that, it's a lot easier to do it with the handlebars still on, because you can only go so far and you got to reef on those things a little bit. So that's my next step, is take the tie rod ends off. Okay, so the outer tie rods are off the wheels, or the hubs. They're just loose there. I'm just holding the GoPro with my hand here. So hopefully you can see, of course you got this thing in your way. Well, I'll try to point at it. This is the cotter pin that we have to get off. Now I can get my hand in here relatively easy. I just got to get the right size needle nose pliers to get that off. So I would suggest doing that now, just after you get the tie rod ends, the outer tie rod ends off. And what I might suggest that you do, and I've done this the last time, just because it's more difficult to get the top of these tie rod ends tight in there, what I've done before is, when I replaced these the last time, I found it was very difficult again to get in the proper area there. So I'm actually going to back the tie rods off, back that jam nut off, and then unscrew the rod itself, and just leave the inner tie rod on for when I drop the pitman arm right off of the bottom end of that. And that way it's going to be easy when I go to replace them, because I'm not just replacing the bearing here. I'm this far. I invested a little bit of money and I bought upgraded tie rod ends. I haven't gotten them in here yet, but I went with a set of Kimpex 2 mil over tie rod ends and tie rods. So these are a standard 10 millimeter tie rod, 10 millimeter tie rod ends, and I went with a 12 millimeter set because I just why not, right? But that way what I'll do is I'll keep this one set with me on the trail just in case. Good timing. Just in case I break a tie rod for any reason, I'll have one with me. So that's what we're gonna do. I gotta get that cotter pin off there first. Okay. So I just loosened up that jam nut up top. Like I said, I was just gonna unscrew these and get them out of the way so they're not hanging here in my way. Okay. So now, focus you up here a little bit. This is what we got to get off. I just took the cotter pin out of here, and again took the two ends of the tie rod ends, or the tie rods themselves, off the inner tie rod ends. And without all that disconnected, you still have a bump stop, so it's not going to keep spinning around and around. And now we're going to find the right size wrench for that. Speak of the devil! .22. I have one. Now, to get in there without ripping and tearing my arms right off, I'm looking at the pitch of that thread, and that thread is standard. So, that way, I need to come that way. So, pull it towards me, which is the way to do it. So I'll position that to the point where it's as far as I can get it, so it's going to lock up on me. Oh my god. Yeah. Lock nut and flat washer there. Don't lose those. So, and there's your pitman arm. Ooh, that one actually feels kind of bad. And there we go. There's your handlebar, and you can see in the end here, your splines, where that nut goes. Here, the splines, where that nut goes. And this is what rests inside of that bearing, and you can see where it's worn down here. That's from the oil seal. They call it an oil seal. That's what it is. It's an oil seal inside of that bearing assembly down at the very bottom. So I'll take you down there and show you that. You can smell it. It's just, the bearing's done. The bearing is done. Okay, hopefully you're in focus, but what you're seeing is on the frame where your your steering stem goes through, and this is a rubber seal here, an oil seal, and I'll try to pop that out with the one free hand that I have here. The other hand's holding the camera. Oh man, I don't know if you guys work with one hand or not, but it's hard. There we go. Okay. So, here is where things get tricky. I'm going to grab my rag here. I say here's where things get tricky a lot because there's a lot of tricky things going on here. You're going to see there is a inverted nut inside of here that needs to be taken out. That is threaded in there, and that is threaded very tightly in there. The last time I did this, I had to invent a tool because I did not feel like buying Yamaha's special tool. Let me show you what I built. This is a 3/4 inch nut that I built up with weld in a is it 3/4 inch? No, it's 1 1/8, I'm pretty sure. I gotta measure this. Hang on. Okay, so the caliper, electronic caliper's dead. So this is inch and 1/4, probably for the wrench, and 1 1/8. And the 1 1/8 side goes in there. That wasn't too bad of a fight. Yeah, there you go. That's what holds that bearing in. And I believe there's a seal on the bottom of that too. Now I gotta get that bearing out of there. Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. That one just sits in there. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember if that was an aftermarket one or no. That was an OEM one for sure. Yeah. And then there should be a seal down the bottom. Yeah, I can feel the seal. So I'll pop that out of there too. But anyway, I gotta kind of leave it at that because the battery in the GoPro's dying. It's getting late. I gotta shower, get cleaned up for tomorrow for work. The reassembly is just gonna be the complete opposite of what I did here. So anyway, I hope you guys learned something from this. I'm in a freaking mess here. I got stuff everywhere. So hopefully you pick something up from this. That is how you replace the bottom end bearing assembly. I don't know if they called it a bearing or a bushing assembly at Yamaha, but it definitely is a bearing. And I can feel for the one I just took out of there, it's done. So if you're finding there's wobble in your wheels, wobble in your play, and you don't know where else to go, it's probably going to be that. So anyway, guys, I appreciate the likes, the comments, the views. Join me next time. Hopefully I'll be out in the trail. I won't be working on this thing, but thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll see you guys again. Rye Guy out.